rain. It had been falling for hours, soft at first, now merciless. The city blurred behind curtains of water, headlights scattering across puddles like ghosts trying to find their way home. She stood still, on the edge of the bridge. Not leaning, not shaking, just standing there, like someone waiting for a sign, or maybe giving the world one last chance. The river below was silent, deceptively calm. She wasn't crying, not anymore. That had ended long before she climbed over the railing. Her name was Lily. Life had stopped making sense months ago. Her father's cancer treatment had emptied the family's savings. Her part-time job wasn't enough to cover her online college classes. She hadn't spoken to her mother in weeks. And the guy who once promised forever now ghosted her after borrowing $3,000, 0 cents. She wasn't selfish. She was just exhausted. And then, hey, it was just a word, simple. But something about it stopped the wind. She didn't turn. She didn't even blink. "You probably don't want to talk," the voice said again, steady, low, without urgency. "But I do." He stepped closer, quietly, not rushing, not invading. "I don't mean to interrupt whatever you're thinking, but I just wanted you to know I've been there." She finally turned her head slightly, rain dripping off her lashes. A man, soaked in black, long hair slicked back, wearing nothing that stood out, except that face. She narrowed her eyes. "Keanu," he said softly. "Not him, just someone who happened to be walking." She didn't answer, didn't nod, didn't move. But she didn't jump. That was enough. Keanu didn't ask her to step back. He didn't reach out his hand. He simply sat down, right there on the cold, wet pavement, just a few feet away from the ledge. The sound of the city carried on behind them, oblivious. Cars honked, sirens screamed in the distance. Somewhere a radio played a love song no one was really listening to. But here, on this forgotten part of the bridge, there was only stillness. He took a breath. "You know what's strange?" he said, looking straight ahead. "I've stood on a stage in front of 10,000 people, and I've never felt more invisible than I did the night I thought about jumping." Lily blinked, startled. She wasn't expecting that. "No one knew," he continued. "I didn't tell a soul, not my friends, not my sister. I just walked until I found the quietest place I could, hoping the noise inside me would finally stop." He paused. But then someone sat next to me, didn't say anything for a long time, just existed beside me. And, for the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. She turned her head slightly, studying him through the rain. He wasn't acting, he wasn't performing some dramatic save. He was just being. "How did you know I was here?" she finally asked, her voice hoarse. "I didn't," he said with a faint smile. "I was just walking, like I do when I can't sleep. I follow the rain, it leads me to interesting places." There was a long pause. Then she whispered, "I didn't want to die. Not really." "I know," he said, still not looking at her. "Most people don't. They just want the pain to stop." Keanu leaned back against the cold rail, eyes on the sky as the city dripped around them. His voice was soft, almost too soft for the rain to carry, but Lily heard every word. I didn't know he was whispering his goodbye. There was a pause. And then, her voice. It cracked like glass. "I do," she said. Keanu turned slightly but said nothing. Lily's fingers were trembling, gripping the rusted railing. She didn't look at him, she couldn't. But her words spilled out, not as sentences, but as waves breaking from somewhere deep. "You know what no one tells you," she began, "that falling apart isn't loud, it's quiet. It's skipping one meal, then two, ignoring one phone call, then all of them." Her breath hitched. "I used to be top of my class. I had plans. I wanted to teach high school literature. That was the dream." She laughed bitterly. "Now I can't even afford to buy my own textbooks." Keanu stayed still. listening with the patience of someone who understood the weight of holding in too much for too long. "My dad, he was my hero," she whispered. "But cancer doesn't care. It took everything, money, time, his smile." Her jaw clenched. I watched my mom fall apart in slow motion. She started blaming me. I don't think she meant to, but one night she looked at me like I was the reason her life was ruined. I moved out 2 days later. A gust of wind pushed at her hoodie. She didn't flinch. I took on 3 jobs. At one point I was working 20-hour shifts, sleeping in a friend's closet between shifts at a diner and cleaning offices. I was proud I didn't quit. She finally turned to look at him. And then I met someone. Keanu's gaze softened. He told me I was different, special, that he'd never loved anyone like me, and I believed him. Even when he started borrowing money and saying he'd pay me back, even when he disappeared. Her voice grew thinner, like it was running out of strength. I had $17.00 left in my account this morning. I checked it while skipping lunch. Again. Then the college emailed me. I was officially dropped. No tuition, no school. She looked back over the railing. I wasn't planning tonight. I just walked, and somehow my feet brought me here, like I knew this was it, like I just wanted to stop trying. There was a pause, not empty, but sacred. Then Keanu said quietly, "I'm sorry." It wasn't a line. It wasn't pity. It was real. "You're still here," he added. "That's something." She shook her head. "I don't know if I want to be." He nodded. That's fair. But sometimes just saying it out loud is a way of staying." They sat there in the silence her pain had made room for. And when she stepped back from the ledge, even just by 1 step, it was the loudest moment of the night. They walked slowly, their steps echoing in rhythm with the rain. Lily didn't speak. She wasn't sure what to say. She wasn't even sure why she'd stepped away from the railing. Maybe it wasn't hope. Maybe it was just the first time someone had stayed long enough to see her. The diner they entered was warm, dimly lit, and nearly empty. The scent of fried food and burnt coffee clung to the cracked leather booths and yellowed menus. It was the kind of place that didn't judge anyone who walked in at 3 a.m. Keanu led her to a booth in the far corner, near a window that looked out to nothing. He didn't ask what she wanted. Didn't ask anything. He simply ordered 1 black coffee and asked for an extra cup. The waitress returned with a steaming pot and 2 mugs. Lily wrapped her hands around hers, letting the heat sink into her skin. For a while they just sat. The rain tapped against the glass, and the city outside moved in slow, sleepy motions. Lily finally broke the silence. "You know, I used to come to places like this when I skipped classes, just to feel like I existed somewhere." Keanu looked at her, but didn't interrupt. "I'd sit in the back, order the cheapest thing, and pretend I had a life. Pretend someone was waiting for me after." She stared into her coffee like it held the answer to everything she couldn't fix. People think being sad is dramatic, that it means crying all the time, slamming doors, screaming, but it's not. She looked up at him, eyes rimmed red but dry. It's brushing your teeth and not remembering if you already did. It's walking home and realizing you don't remember the last hour. It's smiling because you don't want to explain why you don't want to talk. Keanu nodded slowly. It's existing, but not living. A single tear escaped her eye, trailing down without force. "I didn't want to die," she said. "I just didn't want to carry it anymore." There was no pity in his eyes, only understanding. And in that silence, something cracked open inside her. He finally said, "I don't know if this'll make it easier, but the people who carry the most, they usually end up helping others carry theirs." Lily blinked. "Wife?" "Because they know what it feels like to be invisible." She leaned back, exhausted but strangely lighter. "I don't know what happens next." "You don't have to," he said gently. "You just have to get through tonight." She nodded, and for the first time in a very, very long time, she felt warm. The sun rose the next morning, but Lily didn't notice. She had fallen asleep on her old mattress, fully dressed, shoes still damp from the rain. It was the first time in days she hadn't cried herself to sleep. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it at first, convinced it was another debt reminder, another silence she'd have to stare at. But then she saw the name. Mom. 3 words. Still your mom. No punctuation, no explanation. But it was something. It cracked a silence that had stood between them like a wall of ice. Lily didn't know if she was ready to answer. But for once, she didn't delete the message. Later that day, she checked her email, more out of habit than hope. Subject: Community Mental Health Essay Program. Results enclosed. She remembered applying. Barely. It was a night much like the one before the bridge. She had written something raw, something messy, and clicked submit because, why not? Her hands trembled as she clicked open. Dear Lily, we were deeply moved by your honesty and courage. We are pleased to offer you a grant toward continuing your education, along with mentorship support and counseling access. She read the message again and again. Then she broke down, not from pain this time, but from release. That afternoon, a knock came at her door. She froze. No one knocked anymore. She opened it slowly. It was Kira, her old roommate, still in her scrubs, hair tied up, tired eyes. I heard, she said softly. I didn't know what to do, so I brought your mug. The one with the broken handle? She held up the chipped ceramic cup with a faded quote. Even stars need the dark. Lily smiled. For real this time. They didn't talk much. Kira just sat with her. Sometimes that's all a person needs. Not advice, not answers, just not to be alone. That evening, Lily went for a walk. No destination, just movement. The city was the same, loud, gray, full of strangers. But now she noticed. The boy on the bench with his dog and a notebook. The woman singing softly at a bus stop. The barista with tattoos covering scars. Everyone was carrying something. And for the first time, she didn't feel ashamed of her own burden. She began to walk more. Not to get anywhere. Not to escape. What to see? The city she used to hate. The one that swallowed her sadness like it didn't matter. Started to show its bruises, too. There was the girl with the scar behind her ear who always wore headphones even when they weren't plugged in. The middle-aged man who fixed umbrellas for free on the corner, humming lullabies to no one. The teenage boy at the library who read to an empty chair every afternoon until Lily noticed the urn sitting on the seat. They were all survivors, quiet, unseen, but surviving. She realized that maybe that was strength. Not the shouting kind, not the kind that demands attention, but the silent strength of getting up even when it hurts. Of washing your face before crying again? Of holding on one more hour, for no reason other than you might want tomorrow. She passed the bridge again. Not out of habit, out of memory, and that's where she saw her. A girl, younger than Lily, still soaked in everything Lily remembered. Standing still, clutching her sleeves, looking at the edge. Lily didn't hesitate. She walked slowly, sat down on the concrete just close enough to be felt, not feared. She said nothing. Minutes passed. Then Lily turned slightly. I used to come here too, she whispered. I thought the river could take what the world had given me. The girl blinked. But I found something else instead, Lily continued. I found someone who didn't fix me. He didn't even try. He just stayed. She looked at the girl, her eyes soft. I can stay too, no pressure, no questions, just stay. The girl didn't move, didn't speak, but she didn't jump. And Lily understood now, sometimes saving someone wasn't about pulling them back. It was about sitting with them long enough for them to step back on their own. There was a piece of paper, folded twice, hidden behind a cracked mirror in Lily's room. Written weeks ago when the silence inside her had grown teeth. It wasn't dramatic. No curses, no blame, just a list of why she no longer belonged here. She'd written it on the back of a parking ticket, as if even the paper had decided she wasn't worth something better. It read, no job, no school, no money, no family, no love. No reason. 6 bullet points. Each one had felt final, like nails in the coffin of her worth. That night, days after the bridge, Lily found the note again. Not by accident, she had gone looking. Her hands shook as she unfolded it. The ink had smeared, rain maybe, or tears. But the words were still there. She sat at her desk, the same desk where she once wrote dreams of becoming a teacher, of making a difference. She stared at the list. Then, slowly, she picked up a pen, not to add anything, but to cross something out. No family, gone. Her mother had messaged. They hadn't spoken since, but the line was still open. That mattered. No love? She paused, then crossed it out too. Because the opposite of love isn't hate. It's being forgotten. And that night on the bridge, someone remembered her. No reason. She couldn't cross it out yet, but she drew a question mark next to it. Then, below all the items, in trembling letters, she wrote, "I was wrong about the silence. It wasn't empty, it was waiting." And then she folded the note again, not to hide it, but to keep it. Not a suicide note, a survival note. Weeks passed. The city blossomed in spring without permission. The sidewalks cracked to let dandelions grow. Doves returned to their favorite roofs. And Lily was still here. Not a healing miracle, not glowing with newfound joy, but alive. She had a part-time job at a used bookstore, quiet, cozy, where the smells of old and new pages mingled like memories and hopes. Sometimes she talked to customers. Sometimes she said nothing, and that was okay. One rainy afternoon, she was rearranging a bookshelf near the window when a familiar figure walked by. A black coat, light footsteps, hair a little longer, soft eyes. He paused, sensing something, turned back a bit. Their eyes met. Keanu smiled. Not loudly, just enough. Lily didn't wave. Didn't say anything. She just smiled back. It wasn't a reunion. It was recognition. I saw you. You stayed. You're still here. And that was enough. Conclusion, for anyone still here? This story isn't about being rescued. This story is for anyone who needs to listen, needs to share. Yes, that's you. If your heart feels heavy, if the nights are longer than they should be, if the world seems indifferent to your pain, know this. You matter. Even if you feel invisible, even if no one knows how hard it is for you to continue. Especially then, the pain you carry does not define your worth, and your story is not over. The bridge is not the end. That is where healing begins. And I want to tell you, each person only lives once. Live while you still can. The world still has many beautiful things for you to discover, although life is still difficult and hard. But you try, because we are always here, always listening if you need to share. I love and care about you very much. If you find this story good and meaningful, please subscribe to the channel and share so that I have the motivation to write more good and meaningful stories. Thank you very much. Wish you always healthy and happy.